Hello and welcome to your favorite channel about celebrity lives. What net worth now? Today we will discuss the MMA career, controversies and more about the ultimate UFC GOAT Johnny Bones Jones, who has never lost a fight but technically once. Jon Jones was only a few months and 23 years of age when he became UFC's youngest light heavyweight champion in 2011. Making him the youngest belt holder in UFC history. He looked unbeatable and the sky was the limit, it seemed. But it has been a bumpy road for Johnny Bones ever since, with a mixture of breathtaking victories and issues away from the octagon. As Jones prepares to return to the octagon after a 3-year sabbatical, making his heavyweight debut against Cyril Gane at UFC 285 in Las Vegas for the vacant UFC Heavyweight Championship. Let's review his career and timeline, which has been filled with high and low points. Jones made his professional MMA debut on April 12 in 2008 at a Full Force Productions event in Boxborough, Massachusetts, beating Brad Bernard by TKO at 32 seconds and a minute of the first round in a catch-weight bout or 210 pounds. He fought again 1 week later, then 1 week after that, both stoppage wins. Less than 4 months after his pro debut, Jones takes a 60 record into his first fight in the octagon, as a replacement on 2 weeks' notice, and beats Andre Gusmao via unanimous decision in a prelim bout at UFC 87 in Minneapolis in August 2008. The main event that night pits welterweight champion Georges St. Pierre against John Fitch. In the co-main event, Brock Lesnar records his first UFC victory, a unanimous decision over Heath Herring. Jones loses his first ever MMA fight, which he did not in real but technically in December 2009. In a bout he is dominating, Jones is disqualified by referee Steve Mazzagatti for using illegal 12-6 elbows that hurt Matt Hamill to the point where he could not continue. Much controversy ensues, including UFC President Dana White bitterly slinging insults at the ref. In February 5, 2011, Jones submits previously unbeaten Ryan Bader at UFC 126 to improve his record to 121 and immediately afterward is informed that, in just over a month, he will replace injured teammate Rashad Evans in a title fight against Mauricio Shogun. In March 2011, Jones defeats Rua via TKO and, at age 23, becomes the youngest champion in UFC history. The UFC 128 main event is actually Jones' second victory of the day. On the morning of the fight, he had turned superhero and foiled a robbery in Paterson, New Jersey, chasing down a suspect while he and his coaches were out for a run. In November 24, 2011, Jones is taken into custody in the parking lot of a strip club in Albuquerque, New Mexico, the city where he lives and trains. A traffic stop reveals he is driving on a suspended license. Charges are later dropped. 2012 timeline. 2012 brings more controversies to the shore in May as he wraps his Bentley around a utility pole in Binghamton, New York, and is taken into custody by police after refusing a sobriety test. Jones is uninjured, but his 2 passengers suffer minor injuries. He later pleads guilty to DUI, is assessed a $1,000 fine, and has his license suspended for 6 months. Also the same year in August, he brings one of the lucrative deals ever offered to a UFC fighter as he signs a worldwide sponsorship deal with Nike, becoming the first UFC fighter to do so. Jones incurs the wrath of White after declining to accept a short notice replacement bout with Chael Sonnen after scheduled opponent Dan Henderson withdraws with an injury later on the 23rd of August. As a result, UFC 151 became the first event cancelled by the promotion. White verbally attacks Greg Jackson, the coach who advised Jones against taking the fight, as a effing sport killer. After being hastily scheduled for the UFC's next pay-per-view event, Jones nearly is submitted early by Vitor Belfort but fights out of an armbar and ultimately wins the UFC 152 main event via fourth-round submission in the very next month in September. Sonnen finally gets his date in the cage with Jones and nearly ends up as champion despite Jones dominating on April in 2013. While mauling Sonnen in the UFC 159 headline bout, Jones dislocates his big toe. Nonetheless, he gets the TKO finish with 27 seconds left in the first round. Had Sonnen survived to the horn, the doctor likely would not have allowed the champ to continue with the grotesque injury. Big Johnny Bones is taken to the limit for 5 rugged rounds by Alexander Gustaffson later that year in September but escapes the fight of the year with a unanimous decision victory. The UFC 165 main event is Jones' 6th title defense, setting a UFC record for light heavyweights. 2014 timeline. Accused of writing homophobic slurs to a Swedish fan on Instagram, Jones says his phone was stolen and his account was hacked in April 2014. On 4 August 2014, Big Jones appears with Daniel Cormier at a Las Vegas news conference to promote their scheduled title fight, and the two end up brawling on the hotel lobby floor. Later in the day, they are interviewed via split screen on Sports Center. Following the interview, Cormier is heard saying he wishes he were allowed to go to where Jones is so he could spit in his face, and Jones responds, "You know that I would absolutely kill you if you did something like that, right?" For his role in the Cormier brawl, Jones is fined $50,000 by the Nevada State Athletic Commission, which also rules that he must put in 40 hours of community service. 2015 timeline. As early as January 3, 2015, Johnny Bones and Cormier finally fight, and Jones controls the UFC 182 main event from start to finish. He earns a unanimous decision win. Just one day after being featured on Forbes magazine's 30 Under 30 on 6 January 2015 on the list of the brightest young stars in sports, Jones sees his public image take a jolt when the Nevada State Athletic Commission reveals that he tested positive for the main metabolite in cocaine prior to the Cormier fight. Jones announces he has checked into a rehab facility. The drug test occurred a full 30 days before UFC 182, and because cocaine is not on the list of substances banned while out of competition, the fight was allowed to go on. Jones checks out of the rehab facility in Albuquerque after one night the very next day, and on the 17th of January, the UFC fines Jones $25,000 for violating its Athlete Code of Conduct policy for the failed drug test. Jones tells Fox Sports, "I'm not a cocaine addict by any means or even a frequent user. I just made a really dumb decision and got caught." In April on 27, 2015, he is involved in a hit-and-run in Albuquerque that injures the pregnant woman driving the other vehicle. Jones turns himself in to police hours after initially fleeing the scene, and the very next day he is stripped of his championship and suspended indefinitely by the UFC. In Sept 2015, Jones pleads guilty to a charge of leaving the scene of an accident involving injury. He is sentenced to 18 months of supervised probation. While the very next month in October, the UFC reinstates Jones to its active roster. 2016 timeline. On March 29, 2016, Jones is jailed in Albuquerque for violating probation. A week earlier, He was cited by police on 5 charges related to drag racing, and footage from a police body camera captured Jones calling the officer a effing liar and a pig. And just after 2 days, for the parole violation, Jones is ordered to take anger management and driver improvement classes. In April 23, 2016, Jones returns to competition after a 15-month absence and defeats Sonnen St. Preux via unanimous decision to capture an interim light heavyweight belt. Jones is pulled from his scheduled UFC 200 rematch with Cormier after being flagged by the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency for a potential doping violation on July 6, 2016. To justify that, Johnny Bones holds a news conference in Las Vegas and denies cheating. His manager announces they will appeal the failed test. Being labeled as a cheat, says a tearful Jones, hurts me more than anything else I've been through in my career. And just 1 week after a hearing on November 7, Jones is issued a 1-year ban from USADA retroactive to the failed test. The hearing had revealed that the substances for which Jones tested positive were clomip, hen, and letrozole metabolites, found in tadalafil, an erectile dysfunction medication that Jones acknowledged taking. On November 9, 2016, Jones was stripped of his interim title by the UFC, making him the first champ to be stripped twice. And on the 15th of December, the NSAC announced it has levied the same 1-year suspension Jones received from USADA. 2017's timeline. July 29, 2017, after another 15-month absence from the cage, Jones finally meets Cormier again and connects with a devastating head kick to score a third-round knockout to regain the Light Heavyweight Championship on the 29th of July 2017. Big John's is on cloud 9 after title win. Jon Jones reacts to reclaiming the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship after defeating Daniel Cormier at UFC 214, and what this means for career. And the sad news comes very next month. On the 22nd of August, Jones is notified of a potential violation of the UFC's anti-doping policy stemming from a drug screening on July 28, 1 day before the UFC 214 rematch with Cormier. The anabolic steroid Turinabol was found in his system in a test administered by USADA. The California State Athletic Commission overturns Jones' July win over Cormier, ruling the bout a no contest. The UFC strips Jones of the title and reinstates Cormier as champion on the 13th of September, which breaks Big Johnny. Stephen A. Smith extends compassion to Jon Jones after the Zacks ruling revoking the UFC fighter's license. 2018 timeline. USADA announces that, after an appeal process, it has assessed to Jones a 15-month suspension retroactive to July 28, 2017. He is deemed eligible to fight again as of October 28 in 2018. The UFC books Jones to return to the octagon on December 29 in a rematch with Gustaffson. The UFC 232 main event will be for the light heavyweight belt, which the promotion is stripping from Cormier for failing to defend it. The UFC holds a news conference at Madison Square Garden on 2 November with Jones and Gustaffson, and as the fighters are squaring off for photographers, Jones pushes the Swede. He later explains himself to ESPN, "I was just like, we're in New York, let's give the fans some excitement." On December 23, 2018, in an unprecedented move, UFC 232 is relocated from Las Vegas to Los Angeles after a random drug test of Jones discovers a trace amount of the anabolic steroid for which he was banned last year. USADA declares Jones not at fault, but he is unable to be licensed in Nevada in time for Saturday's fight. Jones is drug-tested on the day of weigh-ins, and a trace amount of turinabol, the same steroid metabolite that earned him his ban, is again found in his system. This test result will not come to light until a January 23 report by MMA Fighting, which quotes California Commission Executive Director Andy Foster as saying Jones was not punished because there are no grounds to charge somebody twice for the same violation. And on December 29, he is dominant the whole way and defeats Gustaffson by third-round TKO and once again is UFC Light Heavyweight Champion. Later that day he passes multiple post-fight drug tests. 2019 timeline. In early January interview, Dana White tells TMZ Sports that Jones will file a license application with the Nevada Commission later this month and, if granted a license, will defend his belt against Anthony Smith at UFC 235 on March 2 in Las Vegas. The NSAC votes unanimously to grant Jones a one-fight license that subjects him to additional drug testing by the commission but will keep him eligible even if he tests positive for the same banned substance, as long as it is at the same picogram level. Every week, maybe twice a week, someone is at my house taking blood and urine, Jones tells MMA Junkie in an interview on 22 February, referring to the ramped-up drug testing he agreed to in order to be licensed to fight in California, then in Nevada. I'm okay with it. I've got nothing to hide. I'm excited to learn about what's in my body. There have been no positive tests reported. On 2nd of March a scary event happens. Jones coasts to a unanimous decision over Anthony Smith. There's a scary moment in round 4, however, when Jones lands a knee to the face while Smith is grounded. For the illegal strike, referee Herb Dean deducts 2 points. Had Smith been unable to continue, it would have been a DQ loss for Jones, with Smith the new champion. But the fight goes on, and Jones carries all 3 judges' scorecards by 4,844. On 6th of July Jones scores his narrowest victory, defeating Thiago Santos by split decision. All 3 judges score the bout 4,847, with 2 favoring the champion. While on 21st of July Albuquerque TV station KRQE reports that Jones, facing a battery charge stemming from the April strip club complaint, failed to appear for a bond arraignment in June, prompting a bench warrant to be issued. Jones' team tells the station that he was unaware of the charge and that, once he was told, Jones went to court and paid a cash bond. During the same time around, Israel Adesanya says he plans to fight Jon Jones after he cleans out the middleweight division and that Jones is trying to take his moment. On the 2nd October, 2019, the seeds of a budding rivalry are planted as Jones responds on Twitter to criticism by middleweight champ Israel Adesanya, who was in attendance for the win over Santos and found Jones' performance lacking. "Just don't become delusional, kid. Mess with a beast like me, and I will expose you," Jones tweeted. The social media beef is kept alive with regular shots back and forth. Adesanya says he'll move up a weight class and challenge Jones in 2021 at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas, which will be the home of the NFL's Raiders. In October 15th, Jones pleads no contest to a reduced charge of disorderly conduct for his behavior at the strip club. Under the terms of the plea deal, if Jones is not arrested or found to have violated the law in the next 90 days, the case will be dismissed. There have been no violations reported since, and the case does not appear on Jones' court record. And Big Jones would like to fight Mayak Chech as he claimed. Jon Jones says he could see his next fight after Dominic Reyes being against Stipe Miocic for the heavyweight title. 2020 timeline. On February 3 in 2020, Jones continues to make overtures about jumping to heavyweight, saying he will strongly consider that after the Reyes bout, and he has a specific opponent in mind. I feel like I really want to fight heavyweight champ Stipe Miocic, he says. I feel I could beat him. On February 8, 2020, Jones retains his title, but it is not without controversy. It is a unanimous decision by the judges, but reaction from fans and the media suggests many think Reyes deserved the decision. Dana White says after the bout that Reyes deserves a rematch, but that is put in doubt a week later when Jan Blachowicz scores a first-round KO of Corey Anderson. Jones is in attendance and talks about how impressed he is with Blachowicz and how he could see the UFC matching them up. Later on March 26, 2020, Jones is arrested in New Mexico for alleged aggravated DWI and negligent use of a firearm, among other charges. 5 days later, Jones agrees to plead guilty to DWI's second offense and is fined, ordered to perform community service, and put on probation. The other charges are dropped. Later, Jones donates $25,000 to Food Depot of Northern New Mexico as a response to his community's difficulties during the COVID-19 pandemic. "We're in unprecedented times right now," says Jones. Later, Jones indicates that the fight he wants is not another light heavyweight title defense but a heavyweight bout with Francis Ngannou. When the Predator tweets at him, Jones replies, "All that power means nothing when your haymakers are too slow." In May 21, 2020, after tweeting that the UFC was unwilling to pay more for the Francis super fight, Jones hints that he is walking away from the sport. "It's been fun, you guys. Maybe I'll see you all in a year or two." A week later, upon hearing UFC President Dana White claim he is asking for too much money to fight Ngannou, he wants what Deontay Wilder was paid, Jones has a fiery response on Twitter: "I don't even make half of what Deontay Wilder makes. If my reputation causes you to undervalue me this much, just go ahead and release me from my UFC contract altogether. I'm sure some promoter somewhere will be more than happy to pick me up." Although he does not make it official, Jones indicates that he is surrendering his 205-pound title, tweeting prophetically, "Reyes vs. Jan for the UFC Light Heavyweight Championship of the world. As of right now, I got nothing to really gain fighting either of them. Let me know if you guys want to set up a day in 2021 for that easy fight. Hopefully you guys will be willing to pay by then." Brett Okamoto hints that Jon Jones is vacating his light heavyweight title to likely go after the heavyweight belt. On 17 August, 2020, Jones announces on Twitter that he has vacated his title, writing, "It's officially up for grabs. It's been an amazing journey. Sincere thank you to all my competition, UFC, and most importantly you fans." Hours later, again on Twitter, Jones writes that he had a really positive conversation with the UFC. "Sounds like there will be negotiations for my next fight at heavyweight," he says. "All good news, the weight gaining process begins." 2021 timeline. Jones later in May announces on social media that he has hired veteran boxing promoter Richard Schaefer, former CEO of Golden Boy Promotions, as a representative. The move is seen as a step toward possibly ending Jones' contractual impasse with the UFC. On 23 September 2021, Jones' 2013 title defense Alexander Gustaffson, a back-and-forth battle won by the battered champ by unanimous decision, is inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame. Jones tells ESPN the fight was one of my best moments in my whole career. Hours after the Hall of Fame induction, Jones is arrested in Las Vegas and charged with misdemeanor battery, domestic violence, and injuring or tampering with a vehicle, a felony. Asked about the arrest, UFC President Dana White says, "This guy's got a lot of demons, man, a lot of demons." The very next week, Jones posts to his Instagram story a video of him lifting weights, along with a caption that reads, "I have way too much trauma to consume alcohol. My brain simply can't handle it anymore. I will leave alcohol in my past forever." The next month, Jones is banned from his longtime training facility, Jackson Wing MMA in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Two of his coaches, Greg Jackson and Brandon Gibson, agreed to train Jones off-site, according to a gym statement, as long as he keeps his commitment to a healthy and positive lifestyle. Jones posts on Twitter a video of him working out at Fight Ready MMA in November, the training home of Henry Cejudo in Scottsdale, Arizona. Jones captioned, "Turning lemons into lemonade, ladies and gentlemen." In early December 2021, a domestic battery charge is dropped by Las Vegas Justice Court after Jones agrees to plead no contender to a misdemeanor charge of destroying the property of another. Jones is ordered to pay restitution for damaging a police vehicle and to attend anger management counseling. 2022 timeline. On April 26, 2022, Jones' advisor, Richard Schaefer, tells ESPN that the UFC asked Jones to fight former heavyweight champion Stipe Miocic in July. After Jones tweets, "Stipe is saying that he will be at his absolute peak in September. I'm disappointed but patient. I want the heavyweight GOAT at his absolute best." In August 2022, Jones is asked by a Twitter follower for an update on the Miocic fight. Jones addresses that and also a possible meeting with champion Francis Ngannou. "I've been hearing whispers about November, but honestly I have no clue. Been hearing that Francis could possibly be back on the table though." On 25th of October, Jones tweets, "I'm preparing to fight Stipe December 10th in Las Vegas. Not really sure what's going on between Stipe and the UFC, but I'm ready to compete." 2023 timeline. January 12, 2022, UFC heavyweight Cyril Gane tweets, "Where you at, Jon Jones? I'm free this March, Vegas." On January 14, 2023, the UFC announces that Jones will make his heavyweight debut against Gane on March 4 at UFC 285 in Las Vegas. The fight, Jones' first in over 3 years, will be for the heavyweight championship, as the UFC stripped Francis Ngannou of the title and will allow him to sign elsewhere without exercising its right to match any offers. Be sure to subscribe our channel and keep updated every time about your favorite celebrities. Don't forget to hit the bell icon as well. It will help us reach more people, and that would be a great support for the channel.